Ahoy! And welcome to the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. The Boating Hour brings you the latest and greatest essential information about everything that sails, floats, or motors upon the high seas of Southern California. From landlubbers to old salts, there'll be something for everyone. So climb aboard and get ready to sail with Captain Rick.
Ahoy out there and welcome to the Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick and I want to thank you for joining us here on AM 870. We're here every Saturday at 4 p.m. and please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com. And now all over social media on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Thanks to our sponsor for our show today. For a healthy gut, the best probiotic on the market, Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. I want to wish everybody out there and all my friends a happy new year to the Jewish community. It's Yom Kippur. For those of you in Temple, I hope when you get out, you're listening to the show. So happy Yom Kippur, happy new year. For those of you that are first-time firearms owners or would like to be, want to find about training, competition, education, and knowledge, the NRA Westside Members Council is sponsoring a Women on Target. This is specifically for women, for first-time firearms owners or those that would like to be. So email Captain Rick at theboatinghour.com, and I'll get you a discount voucher. And this is for people that are interested in home defense, want to get some knowledge and education. First-time firearms owners, very important to be educated, knowledgeable, and to know all the very important safety, all the safety precautions, because the answer to gun violence and to the accidents is training, education, and knowledge. So the NRA Members Council, coming up in October, NRA Members Council sponsoring a Women on Target for first-time firearms owners or those that would like to be. Email Captain Rick at theboatinghour.com. If you're interested, someone will contact you, and you will be thrilled. And back by popular demand, probably, if not one of my favorite go-to guest, is Captain Dave with the Fish Report. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing just fine. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. I am so excited to have you back on the show. It's been a little while because I got a lot of questions I want to get a fish report from you, and we've had some extreme weather. And I want to ask you all about how the weather affects the ocean, and we've had everything from a hurricane to the heat wave. I mean, we're in the summer. I guess the summertime, this is the time for the Santa Anas, right? Or is that already over?
No, that's coming up.
Oh, it's coming up. Okay. All right, so we're into the Santa Anas. Okay, first I want to ask you, what's going on in the fishing community, the fishing world out there with the hurricanes and all the different weather as we come into this weather? Have we had a good time, or are the events going on? And have you been out there?
I have been out there quite a bit, and I've been very successful. The pelagic fish that we always get are in greater numbers than we've seen in 20 years.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. So what are those fish?
Your yellowfin tuna.
Okay.
The bluefin, of course, is off the charts right now. Yellowtail, bonita, barracuda, and what has been unbelievable this year is the best eating fish of all, which is Dorado.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. This is a question that I've always wanted to ask you. When I go to the market and I get that fake crab, imitation crab, what is that? What is the imitation crab that you get at when you're at the market? It tastes so good, but it says imitation crab. What kind of fish is that?
Well, it used to be cod,
okay,
but now it's either haddock or pollock.
Okay.
And both of those fish are in great numbers, typically in colder waters, and they're very sustainable.
Why don't they just say cod?
Because nobody would eat imitation cod. You want to eat imitation crab because you know it's sweet and it's going to taste great.
Oh, I absolutely love it. I always buy that. And okay, let's go back to the weather. So we've had some extreme weather, especially the hurricanes, and we had a little bit of run off of the hurricanes, even though they hit Hawaii and I know way out in Mexico, and we were all geared up. All the marinas were flying both red flags, and everybody was so concerned the hurricane was gonna hit us. But we did see a little bit of tide. But how did the hurricanes? How does it affect the oceans and fishing in particular? And then we can talk about maybe commercial fishing a little bit. But what happened with the hurricanes that came through?
Well, the hurricane pushes that warm water from Mexico up towards us. And luckily, this hurricane was 60 miles inland, because if it would have come up our coastline, we would have had severe damage.
Right.
But luckily, it hit mostly unpopulated areas other than, Palm Springs and Vegas. So I think the hurricane itself pushed all this warm water up into our neck of the woods and drove all these pelagics up here also, or at least helped that happen.
Ah, okay. So the fishermen were out there pretty happy, huh? A lot of good fishing.
The fishermen have never been happier up and down our coast right now.
No kidding. Is that bringing back the tournaments? Because for a while the tournaments they weren't. They were complaining about being fished out, and there weren't as many tournaments going on, and there were a lot of tournaments up and down the coast. Marina del Rey, we're down to beach. You go clear down to, Dana Point, and all the way down to San Diego. So are the tournaments coming back? The exciting tournaments?
Oh, for sure, yes. And recently just had the Marlin tournament that's an annual thing off of Catalina. It was very successful. Greater numbers of fish than we've seen in recent years. And also the Mexican government has been cracking down heavily on the trawlers and the net fishermen. And so a lot more fish are making it up into our waters that used to be intercepted.
Okay. I read an article a little while ago where as far as Japan, they're coming into the Baja and netting fish, and then to slow the fish down, dropping a residue of chlorine to slow them down. Is that still going on, or have we gotten involved?
No, we've gone beyond that, and that has been curtailed. They sink ships for that now. They don't even put up with that anymore.
No kidding. That's because the article was an older article. And they talked about how it was ruining, the sediment was at the bottom, and it was ruining the coral in the bottom. So, wow, that's good to know that they don't put up with that at all. God, that is fantastic. Explain something to me. Okay, we're coming into the Santa Anas. Explain to me what the Santa Anas are. I mean, is that, the southwest monsoon season? I mean, explain Santa Anas because I always get confused and people ask me about it, and I'm going to send them all to you from now on whenever.
Please do. So you have a high pressure that sits over Colorado, and it turns the jet stream back south and a little bit west. And as that air goes over the desert, it heats up from the friction of the wind. And by the time it reaches us, it has gained 10 or 12 degrees. And the way LA is set up, it really compacts that wind, and that's what makes the Santa Anas blow. On top of that, you have what's called a Catalina eddy, which takes the offshore wind and it circulates it. And that's why when we have a Santa Ana, it's really the best time to be out on the water because the water's absolutely flat.
Right. When the races go on and the Santa Anas are here, There's some really good winds. The water's flat. It's some exciting racing, but the winds are coming from the opposite direction that we're used to when we go out in the ocean and sail. So it's a little confusing if you're out there racing and say like California Yacht Clubs, the Wednesday nights, which has been going on since the marina opened, and it's the opposite. So a little confusing. Why is the wind turn around? That I don't understand.
Well, you're having a different wind pattern completely, and up in the Channel Islands, up by Santa Barbara, usually that air gets compressed and it pushes that west wind every day. So we start out with kind of a south wind, and then it builds throughout the day because of the heat, and then it gets compressed around the Channel Islands, and then it gets squeezed back down towards us. And that's why that channel up there gets so rough every day. But during a Santa Ana, it's just the opposite. And so it is flat, calm, and everybody loves that because now is a great time to get out on the ocean and do the wakeboarding and the skiing and that kind of thing.
Right. Well, you talk about wakeboarding. I have someone coming on next week from Just Right LA. My guest is going to be a gentleman named Danny. And from the photos and the stuff I'll put on the website, he's going to make me want to be a young kid again. He's just got these foiling boogie boards and surfboards, and he's got an amazing thing. So next week, the Just Right LA, our guest will be Danny. And I think I'll get out there. He's invited me to come out, and he'll be in Marina del Rey. He's going to go to all the different marinas, so that'll be pretty exciting. Do you ever see the guys, when I go to the boat shows, I see these kayaks that are developed for getting out there and fishing. These really beautifully done, expensive kayaks that have got everything from fishing rods and poles and bait tank and the store. Have you ever gone out there on a kayak and done any fishing out here, or is that kind of for lake boats? Is that for lake fishing?
Oh, no. That's so much fun because you're so in touch with the water. It's a different experience than being out on a power boat fishing, but you're also, if you catch something big, you can actually use that fish as your motor and point it wherever you want to go.
You can get home or get all the way to Catalina with it. So
yes.
Are those kayaks that I see at the Bart Hall show? They had a huge, I think even Hobie is into it now. So the Hobie has some really nice ones. Is that okay for the Pacific Ocean right out here in Marina del Rey and Redondo Beach? And
it sure is, and it's a lot of fun, and people go all out on these kayaks, and it makes fishing really, really easy.
Are they safe?
Very safe.
Okay. Well, what kind of fish would you?
And a lot of the guys that go out in the rougher water, they'll actually put an extra, like the Hawaiians do. They got that little offset, like an extra kayak to keep them afloat.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Like an outrigger.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah, you see that at the boat shows. And Bart Hall's coming back on the show. He's going to be in Long Beach in January, and he's got a show in February and one in March. So the Bart Hall used to be his father, Fred Hall, the Fred Hall show.
That's right. Yeah, I remember.
And Bart Hall was a musician. When he came on the show last year, he'll be on again. He talked about he was very reluctant to help his dad, but he grew up, with his dad, the Fred Hall shows. He was a musician. He was a traveling musician. Then he ended up helping his dad. He's been running the shows for years. But and he's a fisherman too. So we'll get Bart Hall on and talk about that. But his show's coming up January, February, March, and I'll be at all those shows. I might do a live show at the Bart Hall. I'm planning on it. Okay, let's go back to fishing. Where's the good fishing right now? What are people expecting to catch? And in the harbor, in the Santa Monica Bay, okay, tell me how, because at one time it was bad pollution. Of course, the Heal the Bay was very active. Tell me how the Santa Monica Bay is doing, and when you go out of Marina del Rey, where's your favorite area? Do you like to go north towards Channel Islands, backside of Catalina, or do you stay in the Bay Area?
Well, right now the place they've been catching most of the bluefin tuna is out at Tanner Bank or Cortez. And then where they're getting the yellowtail right now is in front of Clemente Island. And then they're doing the bass, the bonita, that kind of thing around Catalina. And it's been really prevalent. And then the Dorado they're catching on all the kelp patties. So any kelp patty you see out anywhere between San Diego and long about San Pedro, out in there, that there's tons of Dorado, and they're the fastest growing fish, and they're very sustainable, and the fishermen are having a lot of fun with those. And then in Santa Monica Bay, the halibut have come back in, and we haven't seen them for about 20 years.
Right.
And I've been seeing numbers of halibut, and the sizes of the halibut, we don't know where they went to, and we don't know why they came back, but we're really happy that they did.
Oh, halibut's one of my favorite fish.
And right now the bonita and the barracuda have moved into the area around Point Doom, and that's where I always go fishing. And the reason why I go up there is most of the boats will head out to the islands or they'll head south. And I just typically like to be left alone, and I like to find open water where there isn't anybody.
Okay. You mentioned Canner Bank. Where's Canner Bank? I'm not familiar with Canner Bank.
Canner Bank.
Okay.
And that's that's 100 miles out.
Oh, my goodness.
And you get on an overnight boat, or if you're a sport boat guy, you can get out there, and a lot of the fishing's done at night with jig fishing. And you just got to figure out what depth the tuna are at. And if you put something in front of them and shake it enough, they'll eat it.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, 100 miles out is a little bit far for me.
A little far for me, too.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go in the kayak that I want, but I will stick in the bank. Okay, 2 questions for you. I got an email after one of your shows. I forgot to tell you about it. And it must have been from a young listener, because it said, Captain Rick, you had the fish report. I want to know how many fish are in the ocean. Have we ever had any idea how many fish are in the ocean? There's more fish than people, aren't there?
Way more fish than people. Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness. But I love that. I'm gonna, something. I'm gonna find that email and ask this youngster to come on the show. Well, okay. Here's a serious question for you. If people are listening and want to get into fishing, they're not seasoned fishermen. They want to get their kids into fishing, and they're new, or maybe even people visiting. How do you go about starting out? How do you go about learning how to fish? Where do you go? How do you get your kids involved? What's for the novice out there? How do they get started? Where do they go, and who do they talk to?
You would go to your local bait shop, or you could go on YouTube and watch some instructional videos. But the easiest way to start fishing is you get a very simple spinning rod and reel, 8 to 12 pound test. You put a sinker at the bottom, and you put a couple of dropper loops above it, and you go out and you start casting. That's really the simplest way to get into fishing. And on your hooks, you'll put some bait, and you will find fish. They're near the shore. All you have to do is get out past the first wave, and there's lots and lots of fish right beyond the first wave. If you go out 2 hours before high tide, up to about an hour and a half after high tide.
I once saw over by the UCLA where you've got some people on the rocks that were fishing, and I was coming back. I was can't remember who I was with.
The UCLA Marina.
Right.
Yeah.
And I saw it looked like I was coming back in. I was going downwind on a sailboat. And I can't remember who I was with, but there was obviously an adult and a couple of kids. And they were casting. And I'm not sure if they were supposed to be in that particular area of the rocks because it was very close to UCLA. I know there's designated spots. And the poor fella, he cast the whole rod. He threw the whole rod in the ocean.
Oh, gosh.
And there was a big, big 50-plus footer sailboat that was coming in. They were taking the sails down and going under engine. And they all alerted us because we were in a very small little dinghy. And we went over, we were trying to get the rod, and then one of the coaches from one of the clubs was in his little, he was in his rib, and he went over there, and he was able to get it back to them. It didn't sink.
What a lucky guy.
Yeah, it was right there. It was really funny at one point, but that would have been so sad for the young fella. And I'm not sure that they were, I'm sure, appreciative, but we didn't stop to talk to them because we were coming in the harbor. That was so excited. We've had some amazing guests. I don't know if you listened to the couple of the previous shows. There's a Halloween regatta coming up. So
yes, there is.
The second annual will be pretty exciting. It's a small group of really active people in the marina, and I guess they went out last year just as friends with something to do. And it's gotten a little bit of play, a little bit of enthusiasm. So they're kind of making it official this year. So I'll be at the, the boat parade. And then I had a wonderful guest that has a boat as you enter the harbor. And she's been there since she was a young girl. Her dad was very instrumental in helping build the marina. And she is in the airline business. So she came on the show and she talked about the private planes that they're loading up at Burbank Airport. They're still doing it. Every day or every couple of days, they load up a small private plane, and they're loading it up with essentials going to Hawaii. There's a lot of things going on there, and I guess some of the affected people in the disaster, the hurricane over there, were having trouble getting necessary supplies. So I had her on the show. She's going to come back in. But every day they're loading up at the Burbank Airport. So I
hope those supplies keep going there. They're in great need right now.
Yeah, she's still doing it. All the essentials, the canned food and water, but also, you think it's just toiletries and, feminine products and, the hydrochloroquine, what you need for malaria. So she's still doing that. So she's going to come back on the show. So we've had some amazing guests, but you're one of Dave, I got to tell you, you're my favorite guest. I want to thank you for coming back on. And I think I'm going to take your advice on some of the being a beginner. I am a novice fisherman. I should be an intermediate by now, as much as I've gone out with people as a kid. But I think I'm going to take your advice and do that. But
Rick, you're always welcome on my boat.
That is. You still taking kids out?
I am, and I've been doing it regularly, and we've been very successful.
Because I know they're always so happy after they've spent some time with you. It's an absolutely amazing thing that you do with the work that you do with the young kids. Well, that's all the time that we have for you today. I hope you enjoyed our show. As always, we're so very fortunate to have such wonderful and exciting guests. And let's not forget the Coasties, protecting our waters, America's lifesavers and guardians of the sea. If you want to go to our website, the whole month of May, we talked to the Coasties. The whole month we spent talking to Coast Guard. We featured the Armed Service Parade that was in Torrance every year, been going on 60 years, and Fleet Week. So check back on the website to listen to some of the interviews with the Coast Guard. Remember, if you do it right and follow the guidelines and safety precautions, there's no place like being out in the water in the fresh air and sunshine in beautiful, sunny Southern California. Here at the Boating Hour with Captain Rick, we cover everything that sails, motors, and floats from San Diego to Santa Barbara. Thanks for being with us today, and I thank our guest, Dave. Thanks for coming on. Please be sure to join us next week and every Saturday at 4 p.m. on AM 870. Thanks to our sponsor for the show today, for a healthy gut, Livia One Probiotics. Don't forget to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com and now all over social media on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and now Rumble, The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. Keep your emails coming. This is Captain Rick saying ahoy and fair winds to all and a happy new year. Happy New Year. It's Yom Kippur. To all my Jewish friends in the Jewish community in Los Angeles, wish you Shana Tova and a wonderful Happy New Year.